I remember the first time I really felt the weight of money, not just the casual concern we all have, but the kind of pressure that tightens your chest and makes your hands tremble when you open your bank app. I was 22, freshly out of college, hopeful but clueless. I had this image in my head: a decent job, steady paycheck, a small apartment, weekends with friends, maybe a trip or two. I thought if I just worked hard enough, saved enough, things would fall into place. But it never felt like that. The truth is, living paycheck to paycheck is exhausting, and it creeps up on you slowly. The rent I pay seems to climb every year, sometimes even twice a year, with no real increase in my income. Utilities, groceries, phone bills, transit, all these little things add up faster than my paycheck grows. I watch my account balance shrink every month, even though I'm careful, even though I say no to most things. The cost of living outpaces my salary like it's a race I'm not meant to win. Some mornings, I wake up with a knot in my stomach because I have to remind myself, I have to pay rent this week. The anxiety isn't just about money, it's about what it represents, the constant struggle, the never-ending game of catch-up. Sometimes, I'm afraid to open my email because I expect to see another bill, or worse, a reminder that I'm late. That fear is exhausting, and it colors everything else: my relationships, my energy, my sense of self. I work a decent job, stable, with benefits, but it's not enough to keep me afloat the way I want to be. I take on extra shifts when I can, but it's not sustainable. The extra hours steal my free time and make me more tired, but the money barely covers a couple of bills. I've thought about asking for a raise, but it's complicated. There's talk of company cutbacks, no one seems to be getting more money, and I'm afraid of rocking the boat. What's maddening is how invisible this pressure feels to others. Friends talk about their weekend plans, spontaneous dinners, new clothes, trips. I want to join in, but I have to calculate every dollar before saying yes. Even a casual coffee meetup means squeezing something else out of my budget. I'm not trying to complain or fish for pity, I just want to be honest about how isolating it is. Sometimes I feel like I'm trapped in a system designed to keep me just barely afloat, while the world around me moves on. Every purchase is a negotiation with myself. Do I need that? Can I wait? Should I just skip this week's groceries for a better meal next week? These aren't just financial decisions, they're daily emotional battles. I've become hyper-aware of every cent, and yet, no matter how frugal I am, the expenses find a way to grow. Inflation, rent hikes, medical bills, it's like an invisible hand squeezing my finances tighter and tighter. Some days, it feels like I'm drowning, but I put on a brave face. I've learned to cope by distracting myself, binge-watching shows, scrolling through social media, diving into books, but these are fleeting escapes. The truth is always there when I wake up: the bills, the empty bank account, the dreams on hold. Speaking of dreams, I've had to postpone so many. I wanted to travel after college, to see the world beyond the city's limits, to find new perspectives and recharge my soul. I dreamed of saving up to start my own business someday, something creative that I'm passionate about. But these dreams have been pushed further and further into the future, replaced by the urgent need to survive today. I sometimes wonder if I'm alone in feeling like this. It's hard to admit when you're constantly hustling just to keep your head above water. There's a quiet shame that comes with it, as if financial pressure is a personal failure rather than a systemic problem. But I've come to understand that it's not about failing myself, it's about existing in an economic environment that doesn't feel designed for people like me. Still, I hold on to hope. It's a fragile hope, sometimes flickering, but it's there. I imagine a future where I'm not defined by my bank balance, where I can breathe without counting every penny. A future where I can afford to say yes to more than just necessities. I want to believe that this pressure won't be permanent, that with enough patience and maybe a bit of luck, I can reclaim the freedom to dream again. Until then, I keep going. I keep negotiating my daily choices, balancing my emotional health, and reminding myself that this isn't the end of my story. I'm not just surviving, I'm still trying to live, even in the smallest ways. Because maybe one day, the system will shift, or maybe I'll find a way to shift with it. Either way, I'm here, and I'm still hoping. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments, I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. I never imagined my 20s would feel like this, like I'm constantly sinking, trying to tread water in a sea that only gets rougher, while the shore just drifts further away. I'm 27 now, and if someone had told me a few years ago how tight money would feel, how every decision would twist into some sort of balancing act between survival and sanity, I probably wouldn't have believed it. But here I am, living it. I wake up every day already tired, not because I stayed out late or didn't sleep well, but because I'm carrying this weight, this invisible, relentless pressure that never really lets me rest. Bills, rent, groceries, gas, medical copays, student loans. They're like a loud chorus in the back of my mind, a constant reminder that I don't have enough, and I don't know when or if that'll change. And honestly, it scares me. It scares me because I see how fast prices keep climbing, while my paycheck inches up at a snail's pace, barely keeping up with inflation. Sometimes I catch myself doing the math on my phone, again and again, just to make sure I didn't mess up. But the numbers don't lie, I'm falling behind. Every little expense feels like a choice between two bad options. Do I pay the electricity bill in full this month, or do I buy groceries and hope I don't have to eat ramen every night? Should I fix my old laptop so I can apply for better jobs, or save that money in case the car breaks down? The decisions pile up like a mountain I can't climb. And they're exhausting. I remember the excitement I had when I first moved out on my own, how I thought freedom would taste sweeter than this. But freedom feels like a trap when you're tied to a paycheck that barely stretches. The economic environment, the way rent prices soar, healthcare costs spiral, and wages stay stagnant, it's like this invisible system that's designed for people like me to stay exactly where we are. Not growing, not thriving, just surviving. It's suffocating. I look around at friends and family. Some are luckier, some are not. But even those who have steady jobs talk about making ends meet, about living paycheck to paycheck. It's like the whole generation is caught in this loop where earning more doesn't necessarily mean better living. Because expenses grow faster, always. The cost of just existing, food, housing, transportation, it's a daily battle. I try to keep track of every dollar, to stretch things out, but the math never balances in my favor. Emotionally, it's a roller coaster. Some days I'm angry, furious at the system, at the unfairness, at how hard I work and how little it seems to matter. Other days, I feel hopeless and small, like I'm just a leaf caught in a storm, powerless to change the course of my life. There's this lingering shame too, even though I know it's not rational. Shame about not being able to get ahead, about having to ask for help or turn down invitations because I can't afford it. It makes me retreat sometimes, isolate myself so I don't have to explain or defend my situation. But there are coping mechanisms too. I've gotten pretty good at finding small moments of joy, walking in the park, listening to music, writing in my journal. I try to remind myself that my worth isn't tied to my bank account, even though it feels like that's the only score society cares about. Sometimes I share my struggles with close friends, and those conversations remind me that I'm not alone in this. That helps. I also try to dream, even if it's hard. I dream of a future where I'm not shackled by financial stress, where I can afford to travel, maybe go back to school, or buy a place to call my own. But I've had to postpone a lot of dreams. A career change feels impossible without a financial cushion. Starting a family feels scary. Even the idea of saving for retirement feels like a cruel joke, so distant and unattainable. Still, I hold on to hope. Not the flashy kind that promises instant change, but the quiet kind that says maybe, with persistence, things can get better. I try to remind myself that this economic system isn't a reflection of my worth or potential. That change is possible, even if it takes time and effort beyond what I have now. Writing this out, I realize how deeply the financial pressure has seeped into every part of my life, my choices, my feelings, my future plans. It's not just numbers on a page, it's a lived experience, one that feels like being stuck in quicksand. But maybe by sharing this, by being honest about the struggle, it becomes a little less heavy. Maybe it reminds someone else they're not alone either. This isn't the story I wanted to tell when I was younger, but it's mine. And I'm still here, still fighting, still hoping for a day when the burden feels lighter, and the future feels a little more like mine to shape. I never thought I'd end up here, caught in this relentless cycle where it feels like every step forward is swallowed by 2 steps back. I'm 26, working a full-time job that's supposed to be stable, but stability doesn't pay the rent anymore. Or at least, not without a constant gnawing anxiety clawing at the edges of my mind. The thing is, I don't even make that little anymore. Inflation's eaten away my paycheck like termites in dry wood. Everything keeps getting more expensive: groceries, gas, rent, utilities, and yet my income barely inches forward, like some sad snail trying to win a race against a cheetah. It's hard to describe the weight of living in a system that feels designed to crush you quietly, without making a scene. Every morning I wake up knowing that the bills are waiting, no matter how I juggle the numbers. Sometimes I stare at the spreadsheet I keep on my laptop, the columns of expenses and income laid out so meticulously, trying to convince myself it's just math. But it's not just math, it's my life. It's the difference between eating well or scraping by on canned beans. It's whether I can afford a new pair of shoes or wear out the ones I have until they literally fall apart. My daily decisions have become this constant balancing act. Should I buy that $3 coffee that feels like a small luxury or skip it to save for groceries? Should I text a friend to hang out or avoid it because I know I can't afford to go out? I've stopped saying yes to invitations more often than I care to admit. Because socializing means spending money on rides, meals, drinks, and I've learned that it's easier to just stay home, even if it means feeling isolated. I miss those carefree days when money wasn't the invisible chain wrapped tightly around my wrist. It's exhausting. There's this invisible pressure that never lets up. Even when I'm trying to relax, the worry sneaks in, like a shadow behind every smile. Sometimes at night, I lie awake staring at the ceiling, thinking about what it means to be doing okay. I see headlines about the economy improving or job growth, but none of that ever trickles down to me. It's like watching a train speed by, knowing you're stuck on the platform, waving, hoping someone notices you. And the harder you wave, the more tired your arm gets. I keep thinking about the dreams I had when I was younger, dreams I've had to tuck away in a dusty corner because I simply can't afford them right now. I wanted to travel, to see the world beyond the small town I grew up in. I imagined myself finishing my education, maybe even going back to school for a degree that might get me a better job someday. I dreamed of moving into my own place, decorating it with plants and bookshelves, a cozy sanctuary from all the noise outside. But those dreams feel like distant stars, beautiful but unreachable. Instead, I focus on coping. I've become a master of budgeting, clipping coupons, and scouring sales. I cook at home more than ever, sometimes spending hours trying to stretch a single grocery trip into a week's worth of meals. I try to find small joys that don't cost much: long walks in the park, free events, second-hand finds. I'm grateful for these things, really, but gratitude only goes so far when the bills pile up and the paycheck vanishes too quickly. Some days, I feel like I'm failing, not because I'm lazy or unambitious, but because the system seems stacked against people like me. I'm trapped in a cycle where expenses grow faster than income, and there's no clear way out. It's like running on a treadmill set to an impossible speed. No matter how fast I move, I'm stuck in place. The worst part is feeling invisible, like my struggles are a personal failing rather than a symptom of something bigger. But there's still a flicker of hope inside me. I hold on to the belief that this isn't all there is. That maybe, someday, I'll find a way to break free, whether it's through a better job, a move to a more affordable place, or even a change in the system itself. I remind myself that I'm not alone, even if it often feels that way. Talking about this, being honest with myself and others, is part of how I survive. Because if I keep these feelings bottled up, they'll eat me alive. So, I take it one day at a time. I do my best to keep going, to keep dreaming quietly in the background, even if those dreams have to wait. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough for now. I never thought I'd feel this way at 27. When I was a kid, I imagined my life would be different, more secure, at least. I thought by now I'd have a stable job, a little savings, maybe even a place to call my own. Instead, I'm stuck in this loop, watching expenses balloon faster than my paycheck, feeling like I'm drowning but unable to swim to shore. Every month is a countdown to payday, and even then, the relief is temporary, barely enough to cover last month's debts and the bills that never stop coming. Rent, utilities, groceries, insurance, student loans, unexpected car repairs, it piles up like an avalanche. The cost of living rises with no mercy, but my income has been mostly stagnant. Raises come so rarely and are so small, they might as well be a pat on the back for being a good employee. It's frustrating and exhausting. I remember last week sitting on my tiny, creaky couch, bills spread out before me like a cruel puzzle I can't solve. I stared at the numbers, trying to figure out which bill I could push back, which payment I could delay, knowing that every delay comes with a fee or interest. It's a trap, really, one that's designed to keep you running but never letting you catch up. The economic system feels like this giant machine that feeds off your stress, your anxiety, your fear of falling behind. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night, heart pounding, because I'm suddenly hit with the weight of it all, the looming credit card statement, the car that could break down at any moment, the rent that's due in a few days. I worry about what would happen if I lost my job or got sick. Without a safety net, even a minor setback feels like a disaster waiting to happen. The pressure isn't just financial, it's emotional and physical. It's the constant, gnawing worry that never lets me relax fully. My social life has shrunk, too. Going out with friends or family isn't as easy when every dollar counts. I skip dinners, decline invites, make excuses so I don't have to explain why I can't afford it. Sometimes I feel isolated, like I'm missing out on so much because I'm just trying to survive. The shame creeps in, like I'm failing at being an adult, even though I'm working as hard as I can. And then there's the mental toll of it. I feel stuck in a system that wasn't built for people like me to thrive. It's this slow grind that erodes hope bit by bit. I want to believe things will get better, but the reality is brutal. Expenses grow, prices rise, and my paycheck barely stretches further than it did 5 years ago. It's like running on a treadmill that speeds up every time you think you're catching your breath. To cope, I've had to learn to be fiercely resourceful. I budget obsessively, clipping coupons, hunting for deals, and rationing everything from food to electricity. I cook at home most days, meal prepping for weeks so I don't have to waste money on takeout. I've taken on freelance gigs whenever I can, trying to patch the gaps, but the extra hours leave me drained. I find solace in small things, long walks, listening to podcasts, journaling, anything to remind me I'm still more than my bank balance. Some days, I just cry. I cry because I feel trapped and powerless, because the weight of financial stress is so heavy it crushes my spirit. But other days, I cling to my dreams. I dream of owning a small apartment, no roommates, a space that's mine. I dream of traveling, of having the freedom to pursue passions without constantly checking my bank app in panic. I dream of a future where money isn't a constant source of dread. I know those dreams aren't impossible, but they've been pushed to the back burner for now. I tell myself it's just a season, that if I keep working and surviving, someday I'll get there. But the system makes it hard to see that day clearly. It's a haze of expenses and paychecks, bills and sacrifices, hope and despair. This story isn't unique. I know so many others in the same boat, young adults caught in this relentless tide. We're trying, really trying, but sometimes it feels like the deck is stacked against us. Still, I hold on to the belief that change is possible. Not just for me, but for all of us. Because if the system keeps crushing us down, where's the hope for anyone? So, here I am, vulnerable, honest, tired, but still standing. Still dreaming. Still fighting. Hoping that one day, the weight will lift, and I'll look back on these years and see them as the tough chapter that made me stronger, not the story that broke me. Some days, it feels like I'm just treading water, barely keeping my head above the surface while the current drags me deeper. I'm 26 now, and for years, it's been this relentless cycle of trying to balance my paycheck against the ever-rising costs of living, like I'm on a hamster wheel that keeps speeding up just when I think I've found a rhythm. It's exhausting in ways that are hard to explain unless you're living it. I remember when I first got my real job, fresh out of college, feeling optimistic. I had dreams, big ones. I wanted to travel, maybe go back to school for something else, buy a little apartment that I could call mine. But as soon as that first paycheck hit my bank account, reality set in. Rent ate up more than half of it. Utilities, groceries, student loans, transportation, they all added up faster than I thought possible. And then there were the unexpected things, the broken heater in winter, a friend's birthday I couldn't skip, a necessary medical copay. It's like the universe has this way of sneaking costs into your life just when you think you're getting a handle on things. The economic environment feels like this invisible wall I can't break through. Inflation has made everything more expensive, from coffee to clothes to gas. Meanwhile, my salary raises, when they happen, barely keep pace. It's frustrating, infuriating even, but I don't have the luxury to be angry all the time. Bills need paying, groceries need buying, and somehow, I have to keep showing up at work the next day with a smile on my face. Everyday decisions have turned into mini calculations in my head. Should I buy the cheaper brand of cereal, even if it doesn't taste as good? Can I skip the weekend movie outing with friends this month? Is it worth taking the bus instead of Uber, even if it means I'm late? I count my pennies in ways I never thought I would. When a small luxury pops into my mind, a new jacket, a night out, a book I want to read, it immediately gets tagged as not essential. Those little joys, once taken for granted, now feel like forbidden fruit. Emotionally, it wears on me. There's a gnawing anxiety that never quite leaves my side, especially when bills pile up or an unexpected expense appears. I catch myself lying awake at night, running through numbers in my head, trying to figure out if I can stretch my budget a few more days. Sometimes it leads to a tightness in my chest, a sense of dread that's hard to shake off. I feel guilty for feeling stressed. After all, I know I'm not alone in this. But still, it's isolating. Friends who earn more don't always understand why I decline invitations or why I get quiet when conversations turn to vacations or expensive gadgets. Coping with this financial pressure is a daily struggle. I try to find solace in routines, early morning runs, cooking meals at home instead of eating out, binge-watching old TV shows that cost nothing but time. I've become an expert at hunting for deals, clipping coupons, and scouring thrift stores. Budgeting apps are my new best friends, though sometimes I avoid looking too closely at my account balances because the truth can be discouraging. I lean heavily on the support of a few close friends who don't judge me for saying no or for sometimes needing a listening ear when it all gets overwhelming. But underneath the surface, there's this persistent ache. Dreams I once had feel like distant memories, postponed indefinitely. I wanted to travel, really see the world, not just the occasional cheap weekend trip. I wanted to move out of this cramped apartment and into a place that felt like home, where I wouldn't dread the bills that come with it. I even dreamed of saving enough to start my own small business someday, something creative and mine. But those dreams have become if-only thoughts. If only I had more money, if only I could catch a break, if only the economy wasn't stacked against people like me. Sometimes, I wonder if the system is designed to keep people like me trapped, working harder but never quite getting ahead, always chasing a moving target. It feels like the expenses keep growing faster than income, and no matter what I do, I'm stuck in this loop. It's not just a financial trap but an emotional one too. The weight of constant pressure can make me feel small, powerless, and stuck in a future that looks more like just surviving than thriving. Yet, despite all this, there's a flicker of hope I try to hold on to. I remind myself that this phase isn't permanent. I try to celebrate small victories, a month where I manage to save a little, a day when I treat myself without guilt, a conversation with a mentor who believes in my potential. I've learned to dream differently, maybe smaller for now, but still dreaming. Maybe one day, those postponed dreams will come back around. Maybe one day, the economic tides will shift enough that I can swim rather than just survive. Until then, I'm here, living this life, sometimes feeling defeated but always pushing forward. Because what else can you do when the system feels designed to hold you down? You keep moving. You keep hoping. And you keep fighting for the chance to finally breathe easy. I never thought I'd feel this way in my mid-20s, like I'm running on a treadmill that only speeds up, while my legs grow heavier with every step. I wake up every morning, take a deep breath, and try to remind myself that it's just another day. But beneath that, there's this constant weight in my chest, the pressure of money that never seems to stretch far enough, no matter how hard I try. The economy isn't just a distant headline for me. It's a daily reality. Rent goes up again, by a couple $100. Groceries cost more than they did last month. My paycheck, on the other hand, barely budges. I've worked the same job for over 2 years, but raises feel like a luxury these days, a carrot on a stick just out of reach. Every time I sit down with my budget, it feels like I'm fighting a losing battle against invisible forces that push my expenses higher while my income stays frozen. Some days, I feel like I'm stuck in this loop where I'm just surviving, not living. Like I'm a hamster spinning on a wheel, running fast but never getting anywhere. I cut back on everything I can, no more dinners out, no new clothes, skipping movies or nights with friends. Instead, I buy the cheapest groceries and try to stretch meals into leftovers for days. I've even stopped going to the gym because the membership is one more bill I can't justify right now. But it's not just about cutting costs, it's about feeling like I'm missing out on life. Like I'm letting myself fade into the background, just trying to hold on. It's exhausting, mentally and emotionally. Some nights, I lie awake worrying about what will happen if something unexpected comes up, a car repair, a medical bill, or even just a broken phone. I don't have a safety net. I don't have savings. I have this nagging anxiety that I'm one paycheck away from chaos, and that fear shadows everything I do. I remember dreaming of different things when I was younger. I wanted to travel, see the world, experience new cultures, maybe even live abroad for a while. I pictured myself starting my own business, creating something meaningful and independent. But those dreams have been pushed to the back of my mind because they feel almost impossible right now. When every dollar is already spoken for, how do you start saving for something as big as a plane ticket, let alone a new life? Sometimes I feel guilty, too. Guilty for wanting more, for hoping for better, when so many people seem to manage somehow. I know everyone's story is different, but it's hard not to compare myself to friends who've been able to buy cars, move into nicer apartments, or take time off just to recharge. I wonder if I'm doing something wrong or if I'm just not trying hard enough. But then I remind myself that this isn't about effort alone. There's a system here that's not designed for people like me to get ahead easily. The system feels rigged, like a slow grind that wears you down. Bills and debts grow faster than I can pay them, and the cost of living rises like a tide that lifts everything but leaves me struggling to stay afloat. Sometimes, I fantasize about hitting a jackpot or suddenly getting a big break, just so I could breathe for a moment. But those moments of hope are fleeting, and reality snaps back with a cold jolt. Still, I try to find little ways to cope. I lean on friends when I can, even if it's just to talk or laugh about something unrelated to money. I take long walks when stress feels overwhelming, trying to clear my mind even if it doesn't solve anything. Writing helps, too. Putting all this frustration and fear into words feels like letting out some of the pressure that builds inside. I want to believe that things can change. That I'll find a way to break free from this cycle. Maybe that means going back to school, switching careers, or moving somewhere with a lower cost of living. But each option feels like a gamble, with no guarantee it will make things better. It's scary to risk what little stability I have, but staying stuck also feels unbearable. The hardest part is not knowing when or if the struggle will end. It's like living in limbo, caught between the present hardship and the distant hope of a better future. I try to hold on to that hope, even if it feels fragile. Because without it, I don't know how I'd keep going. So, this is me, telling my story, not because I want pity, but because I want someone to understand that this isn't just a phase or a personal failure. It's real. It's exhausting. And it's something so many of us face quietly, every day. But even in the midst of all this, I'm still here, still trying, still dreaming, even if those dreams have to wait a little longer. I never thought I'd find myself stuck in this kind of loop, where every day feels like a balancing act on a tightrope stretched thinner and thinner by invisible hands. It's like I'm caught in a system that was never built for me to win, where expenses climb higher every month and my paycheck just stays the same, or worse, barely keeps pace with the rising cost of living. I'm 27 now, and honestly, some days it feels like I'm barely holding on, mentally and emotionally. When I wake up, the first thing I do isn't to plan my day or think about what's ahead, I start running the numbers in my head. Rent, utilities, groceries, transportation, phone bill. I go down the list like a checklist I can't check off. And it never adds up. There's always something extra, a car repair, a medical bill, or a subscription I forgot to cancel, that pushes me into this pit of anxiety I can't seem to climb out of. I'm not the type to complain openly about money, mostly because I know so many others have it worse. But there's a loneliness to this pressure that's hard to explain. It's like living with a constant knot in your stomach. Even when I'm out with friends or just trying to relax, a part of me is always on edge, calculating, stressing. I want to enjoy life, but there's this persistent background noise of, can I afford this, that drowns out the fun. Work is a big part of the story. I've got a steady job, an office gig with decent hours, but the pay isn't what it should be for the amount of work and stress involved. I've asked for raises, looked for new jobs, but the market's tough and competition is fierce. Plus, there's this fear that if I push too hard, I might lose what little stability I have. So I keep my head down, clock in, and try to stretch every dollar as far as it will go. Budgeting has become a kind of game for me, but it's a cruel one. I cut back on everything that isn't essential, coffee shops, new clothes, going out to eat, even seeing the doctor sometimes, because every dollar counts. It's exhausting to live this way, always saying no to things that bring joy or relief. Birthdays, holidays, small treats, they all get shelved indefinitely. I keep telling myself, when things get better, I'll do those things again, but that future always feels just out of reach. The rent hikes are probably the hardest hit. Every year, the landlord raises the rent, and it feels like I'm just throwing money away, paying more but not getting more in return. Sometimes I dream about owning a home, having a space that's mine, a place where I'm not at the mercy of rent increases or landlords deciding to sell. But that dream feels so far away it almost feels like a joke. And then there's the emotional toll. I'm constantly tired, not just physically but mentally drained. Worry keeps me up at night. I sometimes feel like I'm failing, not just financially, but as a person trying to build a life. I see my friends getting promotions, buying homes, traveling, and I'm happy for them, but it also stings. It makes me question what I'm doing wrong or why life seems harder for me. Coping isn't easy. I try to focus on small wins, making a home-cooked meal instead of eating out, finding free events, or just getting outside for a walk when the stress gets too much. Sometimes I write in a journal to unload my thoughts or listen to podcasts about people overcoming hardship, hoping their stories will inspire me. But there's also this quiet despair that settles in when I realize these aren't fixes, just band-aids. The hardest part is the sacrifices, the dreams I've had to put on hold. I used to imagine traveling, seeing the world, maybe going back to school to study something I'm passionate about. I thought about saving up to start my own business someday, but all of that feels like a luxury now. Instead, I'm focused on survival, on making it through the month without falling behind. I'm trying to hold on to hope. I believe things can get better, but it feels like I'm climbing a mountain with no summit in sight. Sometimes I think about what it would take to break free, getting a better job, moving to a cheaper city, finding unexpected financial help, but those options aren't easy or guaranteed. Still, hope is what keeps me going, even on the worst days. This economic pressure isn't just about money, it's about identity and dignity. It's about wanting to live a life that feels full and meaningful, not just scraping by. I want to feel like I'm building something, not just surviving the storm. And I want to believe that one day, I'll look back and say, I made it through. For now, I keep waking up, running the numbers, and doing the best I can. Because giving up isn't an option, even if it feels like the system is designed to keep me down. I'm still here, still fighting, still dreaming, even if those dreams are delayed. I never thought I'd feel this way at 26, like I'm constantly running on a treadmill that's speeding up while I'm stuck in place. Every month, the numbers on my bank app shrink a little more, and no matter how hard I try, I'm always just barely scraping by. It's like there's this invisible weight pressing down on me, made up of rent, bills, groceries, student loans, and the random, unavoidable emergencies that pop up like clockwork. But my paycheck? It's barely budged in years. I remember the day I got my first full-time job after college, bright-eyed and hopeful, thinking this was the beginning of my independence. I had dreams then, traveling, saving enough to move into a nicer place, maybe even starting a small side business. But the reality hit fast. Rent took half my income. Utilities, phone bills, internet, transportation, it all added up. And then there were groceries. I learned how to stretch every dollar, clipping coupons, hunting sales, cooking in bulk. I swapped out fresh veggies for canned ones, homemade meals for cheaper takeout. I cut out things I loved, going to the movies, meeting friends for coffee, new clothes. It felt like peeling away pieces of myself. Sometimes, I ask myself, when did life become just about surviving? The news talks about inflation like it's this abstract number, but for me, it's the reason I can't fix my leaky faucet, can't replace my worn-out shoes, can't save for a doctor's appointment. Prices rise every month, but my salary stays the same, or sometimes even gets cut. That gap feels like a widening chasm beneath my feet. I'm working harder than ever, juggling 2 part-time gigs alongside my main job, trying to catch up, but it never feels like enough. Emotionally, it's exhausting. The constant stress gnaws at me. I lie awake some nights, heart pounding, worrying about what happens if I miss a payment. What if the car breaks down? What if I get sick and can't afford treatment? These fears aren't just fleeting, they're persistent shadows that follow me everywhere. I find myself withdrawing from friends because I can't afford to join them, or because I'm ashamed to admit I'm struggling. There's a deep loneliness in that, feeling like you're trapped behind a glass wall, watching others move forward while you're stuck. Sometimes, the pressure makes me feel like a failure. Like I'm doing something wrong. I'm smart, I work hard, I'm responsible, but the system seems rigged against me. It's a vicious cycle. The more you try to keep up, the more you fall behind. Every time I manage to put a little aside, something unexpected drains it away, a car repair, an emergency dental visit, an increase in rent. It's hard not to feel defeated. But I cope the best I can. I find little pockets of joy where I can, reading a book borrowed from the library, walking in the park, cooking a new recipe with whatever I have. I've learned to be creative, to stretch resources, to lean on a few close friends who understand without judgment. Sometimes, I journal my frustrations. It helps to give my worries a shape, so they don't feel so overwhelming. I've started meditating, even if just for 5 minutes, to calm the storm inside my head. Despite all this, I haven't lost hope entirely. I still dream, even if those dreams have been postponed. I want to move somewhere sunny, where rent isn't a stranglehold, where I can build a home that feels safe and welcoming. I want to travel, to see places that remind me there's more to life than this daily grind. I want to finish that side business I've been tinkering with, something that could maybe give me a little financial breathing room. I want to save enough to someday stop worrying so much. But those dreams feel distant, like stars just out of reach. For now, I have to focus on the next paycheck, the next bill, the next meal. I remind myself that even small steps matter, even if the progress feels slow. I try to hold on to the belief that this isn't the end of my story, that someday the weight will lift and I'll look back and see how strong I was. I know I'm not alone in this. There are so many of us caught in this same trap, working hard, watching prices rise, feeling the pinch tighten every day. It's a quiet struggle, one that isn't talked about enough. But for me, telling this story is part of trying to break free, even if just a little. Because surviving isn't just about paying bills, it's about holding on to your dignity, your dreams, and your sense of self, even when the world seems determined to chip them away. So here I am, still moving forward, even if it's just one small step at a time. Hoping, waiting, and fighting for the day when I can finally breathe again. Hey, friends! If you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. Every morning, I wake up with this weight on my chest, a mix of exhaustion and that gnawing worry that won't let me breathe easy. It's like stepping into quicksand, but instead of sinking into mud, I'm swallowed by numbers: rent, bills, groceries, student loans, and the endless surprise fees that pop up when I least expect them. The cost of everything just keeps climbing, but my paycheck? It barely moves, if at all. And here I am, caught in this loop where I'm always a step behind, always juggling to keep my head above water. I'm 26, living in a city that used to feel full of possibilities. When I graduated college, I was hopeful, even a bit naive. I believed that if I worked hard, I'd carve out a decent life for myself. But reality hit faster than I imagined. The job I landed barely covers rent and utilities, and when you add in transportation, food, and the tiny luxuries that keep me sane, a coffee with a friend, a book, a night out now and then, there's never much left. Some months, there's nothing left. It's not just the numbers, though. It's the feeling of being trapped. I see friends moving forward, buying cars, traveling, starting families. Meanwhile, I'm stuck calculating if I can afford to replace my worn-out shoes or if I need to eat less to save money. The system feels rigged, like a game where the rules keep changing to make sure I never win. Inflation outpaces any raises, rent rises every year, and debts from school and credit cards hover over me like a storm cloud that never clears. Every day, I have to make choices that chip away at my dignity. Do I call my parents to borrow money again, knowing how stressed they already are? Do I skip that medical appointment because the copay is too high? Should I accept the extra shift even if it means burning out? These decisions aren't about convenience or preference, they're survival tactics. It's exhausting to constantly measure my worth in dollars and cents. Emotionally, it's draining. There are nights when I lie awake, heart racing, panicking about the future. Will I ever save enough for a place of my own? Will I have to keep moving back in with family? What if I lose my job? The fear of falling further behind is always present, a dark companion that whispers doubts and steals hope. I've had to postpone dreams that once felt so vivid. I used to imagine traveling, seeing new places, learning new skills, even just having a weekend where I don't worry about money at all. I wanted to invest in myself, classes, therapy, creative projects, but those things feel like luxuries now, things I can't afford. Sometimes, I catch myself feeling guilty for wanting more, like I don't deserve it because I haven't made it yet. Coping is a daily challenge. I try to find small joys where I can: a walk in the park, a favorite podcast, cooking a meal from scratch instead of eating out. I reach out to friends for emotional support, even if I can't always meet them in person or go out. I remind myself that this isn't forever, even if it feels like it. Sometimes I journal or vent to strangers online because it helps to put my feelings into words and know I'm not alone. What keeps me going is the hope, maybe naive, maybe stubborn, that things can change. That I can find a job that pays a living wage, that I can build a financial cushion, that I can reclaim the dreams I've shelved. I want to believe there's a future where I'm not scrambling, where I can breathe without fear, where I can say yes to things that bring me joy instead of no because of money. But for now, the pressure is constant. It shapes every decision, colors every thought, and weighs heavily on my heart. I'm learning to be kinder to myself, to accept that it's okay to struggle, and that surviving this isn't a failure, it's a quiet kind of strength. Still, I dream of the day when money stops being a cage and becomes a tool to build the life I want, not just a reminder of what I'm missing. Until then, I keep going, one day, one paycheck, one small victory at a time. I never thought I'd end up feeling this way, like I'm stuck in quicksand, struggling to stay afloat while the world around me just keeps sinking faster. It's this relentless, grinding pressure that never really lets up. Every month, every paycheck, it's like I'm playing this losing game where the rules keep changing, and the goalposts just move farther out of reach. I'm 27 now, and for as long as I can remember, money has always been a source of stress. Not because I didn't have enough growing up, but because the gap between what I earn and what life demands feels like it's widening every single day. It's this cruel economic environment where expenses grow faster than income, and no matter how much I hustle or save, I'm still running in place. I've learned the hard way that it's not just about being smart with money, it's about surviving a system that seems designed to squeeze you dry. Every morning, I wake up with this knot in my stomach, thinking about the bills piling up on my desk. Rent, utilities, groceries, transportation, all the essentials that don't even feel like choices anymore. They're just things I have to pay for or risk losing the little stability I've managed to cling to. And then there are the unexpected expenses, the car breaking down, the doctor's appointment, a friend asking for help, things that pop up like landmines, ready to blow up my budget. I try to be careful. I cook at home instead of eating out, I skip social events that cost money, I track every dollar like it's my lifeline. But still, by the time the month ends, I'm left wondering how I'm going to make it through the next one. I'm constantly making impossible decisions. Do I pay the electric bill or buy groceries? Can I afford to refill my prescription this month, or do I hope the symptoms don't get worse? It's like my money doesn't belong to me, it belongs to all these unavoidable demands that keep stacking up. The weight of all this affects more than just my bank account. It's exhausting in ways I didn't expect. There's a loneliness to it, too, a feeling like I'm the only one struggling this much, even though I know I'm not. I watch my friends buy houses, go on trips, start families, and I'm happy for them, but there's also this sting. A quiet ache for the dreams I've had to push aside because they just aren't practical right now. Going back to school to get that degree I always wanted? Postponed indefinitely. Saving for a down payment on a home? A distant fantasy. Even small things, like upgrading my phone or treating myself to a night out, feel like luxuries I can't justify. Sometimes, I catch myself thinking about what my life would look like if the economy wasn't so brutal, if wages kept pace with costs, if there were real opportunities for people like me to get ahead instead of just survive. It's hard not to feel trapped in a system that's rigged to keep people scrambling. I want to believe things can get better, but the reality makes hope feel fragile and fleeting. That said, I'm not completely defeated. I've found ways to cope, even if they're imperfect. I talk openly with close friends about the struggles, even though it's uncomfortable. I've learned to be kinder to myself, to recognize that this isn't a personal failure but a structural one. I try to focus on the small victories, making it through the month without missing a payment, finding joy in free or low-cost activities, the occasional moment when I laugh hard enough to forget the stress. These little things keep me going. I also cling to the future I still want, even if it's far off. I dream of a time when money isn't a constant worry, when I can pursue my passions without guilt, when I can invest in myself and my happiness. I think about traveling, building a home, maybe starting a family. Those dreams feel heavy sometimes, weighed down by the current realities, but I haven't let them go entirely. The truth is, living under this ongoing financial pressure is like living in a storm without a clear shelter. Some days I feel battered and broken, other days, I'm just exhausted but determined. The system may try to trap me, but I'm still searching for cracks in the walls, ways to break through, to find solid ground again. It's not easy, and some days it feels impossible, but I hold on to the hope that one day, this struggle will be just a chapter in a much longer story, one where I get to breathe easier and live freer. For now, I keep going. Because what else is there to do? It's hard to even know where to start when everything in your life feels like it's slipping through your fingers, one unpaid bill at a time. I'm 27, but some days I feel older, like I've been running a race that never ends and my legs are starting to give out. I keep asking myself how I got here, stuck in this cycle where no matter how hard I work, the weight of money keeps pushing down on me, tighter and tighter. When I graduated college, I thought things would be different. I had this vision, you know? A steady job, some freedom to live how I wanted, maybe a trip or two, and definitely a chance to save for something bigger. But reality hit fast and hard. The economic environment right now isn't just tough, it feels hostile. Prices are climbing faster than I can earn. Rent, groceries, utilities, student loans, they all swell like this tide that keeps coming in no matter how fast I try to swim out. Every day, I make tiny, grinding decisions that no one sees but which shape the entire fabric of my life. Should I buy the brand of cereal that's a bit cheaper, even though I hate the taste? Can I afford to take the bus this week, or do I have to skip a few rides to save for gas? Is it worth turning off the heat when it's chilly in my apartment, just so I'm not staring at a $150 electric bill next month? These small sacrifices stack up, but they don't feel like sacrifice anymore, they just feel like survival. The financial pressure is constant. Like a background noise, it's always there, buzzing under the surface of everything else I do. Sometimes, I catch myself holding my breath when I open my bank app, afraid to see the numbers. There have been nights when I lie awake, heart pounding, wondering if I'll be able to pay rent or if this month I'll have to lean on a credit card again, knowing full well that the debt will snowball. It's a cycle I'm terrified to admit I'm trapped in. Emotionally, it's exhausting. I feel so worn down and, honestly, a bit ashamed. I look around and see friends who seem to be making moves, buying homes, going on vacations, investing in their futures. Meanwhile, I'm postponing dreams I had long ago. Like saving up to travel somewhere far away, just to experience something new and break free from this routine. Or even something simple, like setting aside money to start a little emergency fund, something to feel secure about. Those things feel like luxuries now. I've had to push those hopes aside, day after day, telling myself maybe next year or when things get better. I don't want to sound like I'm just complaining. I'm grateful for my job, even if it barely covers my expenses. I know a lot of people have it worse. But gratitude doesn't erase the pressure. It doesn't erase the feeling of being stuck in a system that's rigged in ways I don't fully understand but definitely feel every time I open a bill or check prices at the grocery store. Expenses just keep growing faster than my paycheck, and it's like running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up no matter how hard I push. Coping is a mix of trying to stay practical and trying not to lose my mind. I've gotten really good at budgeting, down to the last dollar. I use apps, spreadsheets, even envelopes for cash to make sure I don't spend beyond what I have. I cut out almost everything that isn't essential. Coffee dates with friends have turned into quick phone calls or text chains. Eating out is basically a memory. Socializing feels complicated because money rules what I can and can't do, and sometimes I just want to hide from that pressure altogether. But I also try to keep some light in my days, even if it's small. I've found ways to enjoy simple things that don't cost money, walking in the park, reading books from the library, or just journaling about what I'm feeling. It helps me stay connected to who I am beyond my paycheck and bills. It reminds me that I'm more than my financial struggles, even if those struggles feel like they define me right now. The hardest part is the uncertainty. I don't know if things will get better soon or if I'm just in for years of scraping by. That makes it tough to plan or dream, but I try to hold on to hope anyway. Maybe someday I'll be able to move out of this tiny apartment, maybe I'll start saving for a real emergency fund, maybe I'll even travel. I don't want to give up on those dreams entirely, even if they're on hold. So, this is my truth: living with ongoing financial pressure is like being in a cage without bars, where the walls keep closing in just a little more each day. It's a feeling of being trapped in a system that values profits over people, where expenses outpace income, and no matter how hard I work, I can't seem to catch a break. It's lonely, overwhelming, and often invisible to others, but it's my reality. If you hear me, I want you to know it's not because I'm lazy or unambitious. It's because the environment I'm in makes it so hard to breathe, let alone thrive. I'm doing my best, and maybe one day, all this pressure will ease, and I'll finally be able to live the life I imagined. Until then, I keep moving forward, one small step at a time, holding on to hope in the cracks of my exhaustion. I never imagined that managing money would feel like trying to hold water in my hands. It just keeps slipping through, no matter how tightly I grasp. Every month feels like I'm racing against this invisible tide, an unending flood of bills, rent hikes, grocery costs, and unexpected expenses that swell faster than my paycheck can keep up. And here I am, in my mid-20s, caught in a loop where each day is about making hard choices that slowly wear down my hope. I grew up hearing the usual advice: get a steady job, work hard, save for the future. But the world I'm living in feels nothing like the one those words were meant for. Inflation is a constant whisper in the back of my mind, prices creeping up quietly, then suddenly, my rent is more, my electric bill has gone up, and even a simple trip to the grocery store feels like a luxury. Meanwhile, my paycheck? It's barely budged. Maybe a small raise here or there, but nothing that makes me feel like I'm catching up. Instead, it's like running on a treadmill that's speeding up, and I'm just trying to stay upright. Some days, I wake up and the weight of it all presses down so heavily it's hard to breathe. I look at my bank account and feel the familiar sinking feeling, numbers that don't add up, expenses that are bigger than my income, and the gnawing fear of what happens if I fall behind on rent or miss a payment. I'm not just worried about the money, I'm scared of losing the stability I've carved out for myself in this chaotic world. Stability feels so fragile now, like a house built on sand. The hardest part is how this financial pressure invades everything. It shapes the way I live, the way I think, the way I dream. I've stopped saying yes to plans with friends because I can't justify spending money on dinners or movie nights. I catch myself declining invitations to concerts or trips because the price tags feel like a chain around my ankle. Even small pleasures, like getting a coffee or buying a book, have become calculated decisions. Will this bring me joy? Is it worth the cost? I've become hyper-aware of every penny, turning simple choices into strategic moves in a game I'm losing. I remember dreaming about travel, about moving to a new city, about finishing grad school and finally stepping into a career that felt meaningful and rewarding. Those dreams feel distant now, like stars I can see but can never reach. I tell myself it's temporary, that if I just get through this phase, things will improve. But there's a growing voice inside me, whispering doubts. What if this is the new normal? What if my dreams have to wait indefinitely, swallowed by the daily grind of survival? Emotionally, this constant strain is exhausting. It's a mix of anxiety, frustration, and a quiet loneliness. It's hard to explain to people who haven't been here, the feeling that you're trapped in a system that's not designed for you to win. Where expenses rise like a tide, but your income is a fragile raft that barely stays afloat. I sometimes catch myself scrolling through social media, seeing peers post about new jobs, vacations, big life milestones, and I feel the sting of isolation. I'm doing my best, but the distance between where I am and where I want to be seems to stretch wider every day. I cope by finding small pockets of control. Budgeting apps, meal prepping, cutting back on unnecessary expenses. I remind myself to breathe, to celebrate the little victories, paying off a credit card bill, cooking a nice meal at home, making it through another month without falling behind. I reach out to close friends when the anxiety feels too heavy, even if I don't always share the full story. Sometimes writing about it, like I am now, helps me process the tangled mess of feelings inside. But the hardest thing is holding on to hope. It's easy to feel defeated, to imagine a future where I'm forever stuck in this cycle. Yet, there's a part of me that refuses to give up. I remind myself that this is just a chapter, not the whole story. I still want to believe that with persistence, with time, and maybe some luck, I'll find a way out. I want to imagine a future where money doesn't dictate every decision, where I can take risks, chase passions, and finally breathe freely. For now, I keep moving forward, one day, one choice, one paycheck at a time. It's hard, and it's messy, and it's often lonely, but it's my reality. And maybe, sharing this story is a step toward reclaiming a little bit of power in a system that feels so overwhelming. Because if there's one thing I've learned, it's that being honest about the struggle doesn't make me weak. It makes me human. I never thought I'd end up feeling like this, like I'm stuck in a loop that just keeps getting tighter, no matter how hard I try to breathe. Growing up, I imagined my 20s as this exciting chapter where I'd start building my life, maybe get a stable job, have enough to pay my bills without constantly sweating it, and save a little for someday. But reality hit me hard, and it feels like the world around me is moving at a speed I can't catch up to. Every morning, I wake up with this heavy knot in my stomach, knowing that money will be the main story of my day. It's almost always a tug of war between what I have and what I need. My job pays okay, but nowhere near enough to keep up with how much everything else costs. Rent keeps creeping up every year, groceries get pricier by the month, and utilities? Don't even get me started on those bills, they somehow seem to inflate whether it's a cold winter or a hot summer. I keep thinking, if I just cut back on this or that, maybe I can stretch things further, but there's a limit to how much I can trim without cutting into the basics. The worst part is that my income feels like it's crawling forward while expenses sprint ahead. It's like I'm trying to fill a bucket with a tiny cup, but someone keeps drilling holes at the bottom. No matter what I do, the bucket never feels full. I can't even remember the last time I felt financially secure or carefree. Instead, there's this constant anxiety, a quiet, gnawing pressure that follows me everywhere. I've stopped answering calls sometimes because I'm scared it's a creditor or another bill I can't pay. I avoid checking my bank balance because I know the numbers won't bring any good news. It's exhausting. I see my friends talking about buying homes, planning vacations, or even just splurging on new clothes, and I want to be happy for them, but there's a sting underneath it all. Because I want those things too. I want to live in a place where I don't have to worry about whether the roof will leak or if I can afford a heating bill. I want to go on trips without stressing over every dollar spent. I want to shop for something nice without guilt or second guessing. But those dreams feel so far away, like they belong to a different life, one I'm not sure I can reach. Some days, I find myself daydreaming about what could have been if the economy wasn't so unforgiving. Maybe if my parents had been able to save more for college or helped me out a bit, I wouldn't have had to take on so much debt. Maybe if wages rose with inflation, I wouldn't have to work overtime just to keep my head above water. Maybe if the cost of living hadn't skyrocketed, I could have saved enough for a down payment on a small apartment instead of renting a cramped room in a rundown building. But those maybes only add to the weight, reminding me how many things feel out of my control. To cope, I've gotten really good at stretching every dollar. I cook almost every meal at home, buying in bulk when I can. I track every expense obsessively, sometimes to the point it feels like I'm living my life through spreadsheets and not moments. I skip social outings, even when I'm lonely, because hanging out often means spending money I don't have. I've taken on side gigs here and there, just to bring in a little extra cash, but it's exhausting, and the margins are slim. There's this constant trade-off between survival and sanity. And yet, despite all this, I keep holding on to some hope. It's fragile, but it's there. I hope for a time when I can finally breathe without counting pennies, when I can look at my bank account without fear. I hope for a future where I can pursue passions rather than just pay rent, where I can build something for myself without the feeling of sinking deeper into financial quicksand. I hope for a system that doesn't make it so hard for people like me, people who work hard, who want stability, who want to live with dignity. I'm learning to be kind to myself, even when it feels like everything is against me. Some nights, I write down my dreams again, not to forget them, but to remind myself they still exist. I tell myself it's okay to feel scared and tired. It's okay to ask for help when I need it. And maybe, just maybe, one day the weight will ease. Until then, I keep moving forward, step by small step, dollar by careful dollar, trying to find peace in the struggle. I wake up every morning with this heavy knot in my chest. It's not just the usual stress of getting ready for work or facing the day ahead, it's the constant weight of knowing I'm one paycheck away from falling apart. I'm 26, trying to make a life for myself in a city that feels like it's speeding up around me, but the harder I run, the more it feels like I'm stuck on a treadmill that won't stop. Expenses keep rising, my income barely moves, and somewhere in the middle of it all, I'm trying to hold on to the hope that things will get better. I work full-time at a marketing firm, a job I was lucky to get after graduating college. But lucky feels like a relative term these days. The paychecks cover rent and bills, but barely. Groceries? I'm constantly calculating how much I can spend without tipping the balance into overdraft. Utilities go up every few months, electricity, internet, phone, all creeping higher like a slow, relentless tide pulling me under. And then there's the rent. I live in a small apartment that's too expensive for what it is, but it's the best I could find in this neighborhood. Moving anywhere cheaper means sacrificing safety or adding hours of commute. So I stay put, staring at the rent notice like it's a monthly reminder that I'm trapped. The thing is, it's not like I'm spending wildly. I cook at home more days than not, I skip nights out with friends, I avoid buying anything that isn't absolutely necessary. Yet the bills pile up faster than I can pay them. Sometimes I wonder if I'm invisible to the system, like a ghost moving through an economy designed to leave people like me behind. Most days, my mind feels like it's running a non-stop loop of worry. Will I be able to pay rent next month? What if the bus fare goes up again? Can I even afford to see a doctor if I get sick? These questions gnaw at me, making it hard to focus on anything else. When I'm at work, I'm constantly distracted by thoughts of money, how much I've got left in my account, whether I can cover unexpected expenses, how long I can keep this up. Emotionally, it's exhausting. There's this deep sense of frustration that bubbles under the surface, sometimes spilling over into tears late at night when I'm alone with my thoughts. It feels like I'm caught in a system that's moving faster than I can keep up with, and every step forward is met with a shove back. I see friends buying homes, traveling, investing in themselves, and I cheer for them, but there's also this quiet envy, a yearning for something that feels so distant to me now. I used to dream about my future. I imagined owning a cozy home, traveling to new countries, having the freedom to switch careers if I wanted. I thought I'd be able to save enough to eventually start a family, maybe even go back to school for something I'm passionate about. But those dreams have been shoved into the back of my mind, folded away like fragile paper, because survival feels like the priority now. I postponed plans for graduate school, decided against getting a car, and put off therapy sessions because every dollar counts. Coping with all this isn't easy. Some days, I throw myself into distractions, binge-watching shows, scrolling through social media, chatting with friends, anything to forget the pressure for a little while. But the relief is always temporary. I've tried to be open about my struggles with close friends, and it helps to hear that I'm not alone. Still, there's a stigma attached to financial stress. It feels like admitting defeat, even though it's really just the reality so many of us face. I've also started budgeting with an almost obsessive rigor. Every expense is logged, every coffee counted. I cut corners wherever I can, using coupons, shopping sales, even picking up extra shifts when possible. But the returns are small, and the effort is immense. It's like trying to fill a bucket with a slow leak at the bottom. What keeps me going, though, is the hope that maybe one day, things will change. Maybe wages will catch up with the cost of living, or I'll find a new opportunity that lets me breathe a little easier. I dream of a day when I don't have to say no to things I want or need. When paying bills doesn't feel like a battle, but just another part of life. When I can look at my bank account without anxiety, and maybe even save a little for something more than emergencies. I know that sounds simple, but it feels almost revolutionary right now. Because right now, it's hard to imagine a life where I'm not just scraping by, where I'm not constantly chasing after a moving target that keeps getting further away. Every day, I remind myself that this is not the end of my story. I'm learning to be resilient in ways I never expected. I'm finding strength in small victories, a paid bill, a healthy meal, a moment of laughter. I'm holding on to the belief that my worth is not measured by my paycheck, that I deserve security and peace just as much as anyone else. So yeah, this financial pressure feels like a cage sometimes. But I'm still here, still fighting, still hoping. Because giving up on those dreams would be the only real defeat. And that's something I'm not ready for. I still remember the way the sunlight hits my kitchen table in the early morning, but these days, even the warmth of that light feels a little colder. It's like everything around me is edged with this quiet tension, this invisible weight that sits on my chest, pushing down just enough to make every breath a bit heavier. I'm 27 now, living in a city that never sleeps, but somehow, I'm stuck, trapped in a cycle that feels impossible to break free from. When I was a kid, I dreamed big. I wanted to travel the world, make art that mattered, maybe even start a little business of my own one day. I imagined waking up excited, feeling like I had a purpose beyond just getting by. But reality, the kind that hits you like a cold slap, has been different. Every month, it's a balancing act, juggling rent, bills, groceries, and the little things I used to take for granted. The price of just living keeps climbing, and my paycheck? It feels like it's barely holding still, as if it's moving sideways while expenses race ahead. I'm working 2 jobs now. Neither is what I thought I'd be doing at this point in my life, but they pay the bills, for the most part. Some months, the rent eats up more than half my income, leaving me scraping for the rest: food, transportation, medicine when I need it. And then there are the unexpected things: the leaky faucet, a broken phone screen, the times I have to borrow money from a friend because my car wouldn't start. Each of these little emergencies chips away at the small savings I try desperately to build, eroding any sense of security I cling to. It's frustrating, and honestly, it's exhausting. There's a shame in needing help, even from people you trust. Sometimes I feel like I'm failing, like I'm not doing enough, or I'm just not smart enough to figure this out. But it's not just me, it's the system. The economy, the way everything is set up, it's designed so the cost of living inches up faster than wages can catch up, if they ever do. And people like me? We get caught in the middle, struggling to keep pace but never quite getting ahead. Some days, the pressure makes me freeze. I'll sit on the couch after work, staring at the bills spread out on the table, wondering how I'm supposed to afford both rent and the electric bill without sacrificing food. I know people say budgeting helps, and I try, I really do, but when the numbers don't add up, it just feels like rearranging deck chairs on a sinking ship. I've gotten used to cutting corners. I pack my lunch almost every day to save a few dollars. I skip nights out with friends, even when I desperately want to feel normal and connected. I find myself scrolling through online ads for used furniture or clothes, even though I don't need anything new. I just want to feel like I'm making smart financial choices. I avoid doctor's appointments because co-pays and prescriptions add up too fast. Sometimes I skip meals so I can pay for gas or keep the lights on. These compromises stack up until they're just part of the background noise of my life. Emotionally, it's a roller coaster. I swing between hope and hopelessness, motivation and fatigue. I want to believe that if I just keep working hard, keep pushing, I'll get out of this hole. But the hole feels endless. And every time I see a news story about rising inflation, or hear about the housing market skyrocketing, it feels like the ground beneath me shakes again. It's hard not to feel invisible or forgotten, like my struggles don't matter because I'm just one person in a sea of millions. I do find small moments of peace: early morning runs when the city is quiet, a text from a friend checking in, a good book that takes me away for a little while. I practice gratitude because sometimes that's all I can do, reminding myself that I have a roof over my head, that I'm healthy enough to work, that I'm not alone. But even those moments can't completely erase the underlying anxiety that creeps in every time I open my bank app or look at my calendar full of bills due. My dreams haven't disappeared, but they've been postponed, indefinitely. I put off going back to school because I can't afford the tuition or the time off work. I shelved plans to travel or try new hobbies that cost money. I've watched friends buy homes, start families, or launch their passions, and I feel left behind, as if I'm running a race with weighted shoes. I keep telling myself, one day, but that day feels like it's always just out of reach. Some nights, I lie awake wondering if this is as good as it gets, if I'm destined to be stuck in this loop forever. But then I remember the fire I had as a teenager, the excitement of possibility. That fire still flickers, buried beneath the exhaustion and the setbacks. I cling to it because it's all I have. I'm learning to be kinder to myself. To recognize that surviving in this environment is a form of strength, not weakness. I'm trying to find joy in small victories, paying off a credit card, cooking a decent meal after a long day, even just making it through the month. These moments matter, even if they don't look like the big successes the world celebrates. I want people to understand what it's like, not just the numbers or the paycheck, but the emotional toll of living paycheck to paycheck in a world that keeps raising the bar. It's not about laziness or lack of ambition, it's about being caught in a system that doesn't leave enough space to breathe. Someday, I hope I'll look back on this chapter and see it as a story of survival and resilience. Someday, I hope to have the freedom to dream again without the weight of bills dragging me down. Until then, I'm here, working, hoping, and holding on. Because what else can I do but keep going? It's not easy, but it's my story. Sometimes I lie awake at night and wonder how I got here, somewhere I never imagined I'd be, at least not this early, not this raw. It's this slow, grinding pressure that's become the background noise of my life, the kind you don't always notice at first but then it's impossible to ignore. Financial pressure isn't just about numbers or bills, it's a constant whisper of anxiety in my brain, a tightness in my chest that never quite lets go. I'm 26, working full-time, trying to keep up, but it feels like I'm running on a treadmill that only speeds up. My paycheck doesn't stretch like it used to, or maybe it never really did, and I just didn't see it. Rent is absurd in this city, every year it jumps up a few $100s, and somehow, my salary stays the same. The groceries get more expensive, the utilities climb, even the cost of a cup of coffee, the little things I used to enjoy, feel like luxuries now. It's frustrating and exhausting, like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom. I remember when I first moved out on my own. I was so excited, imagining the freedom, the independence. I pictured small joys, weekend brunches with friends, maybe a vacation somewhere warm, buying a decent bed without breaking the bank. But those dreams have faded. Now, I calculate every purchase. Do I really need new shoes, or can I make these last a little longer? Should I get that takeout tonight or cook something at home even if it means less variety? Can I afford the bus ticket, or is walking an extra mile worth the savings? The bills come like clockwork, and each one feels like a little weight on my shoulders. I shuffle them around, paying what I can, when I can. Sometimes, I have to choose between groceries and gas. It's humiliating, honestly. I never thought I'd be in a position where I had to worry about such basic things in my mid-20s. There's this underlying shame, too, because so many people seem to have it figured out, or at least that's what social media tells me. But behind the scenes, I'm scraping by. I want to be honest about how this affects me emotionally because it's more than just stress, it's a dull ache of hopelessness. When I see others posting about their vacations or new gadgets, I feel this pang of envy that I'm not proud of. It's not jealousy in a bitter way, it's just a reminder of what feels out of reach. I often catch myself daydreaming about a life where money isn't the constant barrier, where I can save, invest, plan for a future instead of just surviving month to month. Sometimes, I get angry. Angry at a system that rewards the already privileged, where wages barely rise but costs skyrocket. Angry at the invisible hurdles that keep people like me stuck, working harder but never getting ahead. It's a lonely kind of anger because there's nowhere to really direct it, no person to blame, just this sprawling economic reality that feels indifferent. But I try to cope. I've learned to be resourceful, meal prepping, hunting for deals, sharing rides with coworkers, even canceling my streaming subscriptions to cut costs. I'm careful about friendships, too, because socializing can be expensive. There's a guilt that comes with turning down invitations, even when I know it's necessary. I want to be present, but sometimes I have to put my financial well-being first. Despite everything, I hold on to hope. It's fragile, but it's there. I still dream about buying a home someday, about traveling without worrying about every dollar, about maybe going back to school to improve my prospects. But those dreams are on pause, tucked away for a better day. Right now, my focus is on stability, on finding small victories in the chaos. I wish people understood how suffocating it feels to be trapped in this cycle, where expenses grow faster than income, where every decision feels weighted with consequence. It's not just about money, It's about dignity, about peace of mind, about the ability to breathe without constant worry. I'm doing my best, but some days, the weight is just too much. I guess this is my reality, one filled with hard truths and quiet perseverance. I don't know exactly how it will turn out, but I'm still here, still trying, still hoping. And maybe that's enough for now. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos. Also, leave a comment, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.